I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, federal indictment. The charges former FBI Director James Comey is facing and the response rippling across America. Cheers and jeers.
Please.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is greeted by a walkout at the UN General Assembly, but that didn't stop him. We have what he said. Changes at the Vatican, what we know about the new leader of the dicastery for bishops, plus spreading the faith.
That's the whole goal of Catechists, is to have this new life in Jesus Christ.
We preview the upcoming Jubilee for Catechists in Rome. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feast of Saints Cosmas and Damian. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump calls him a dirty cop, referring to former FBI Director James Comey. A grand jury indicted him for lying to Congress, but Comey says he's innocent and knew there would be costs to standing up to Donald Trump. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Good evening, Veronica. When President Donald Trump left the White House this morning, headed for the Ryder Cup in New York, he addressed the Comey indictment, and he said he thinks there will be others.
But he got caught lying to Congress.
President Donald Trump blasting former FBI Director James Comey and telling reporters as he headed towards Marine One,
it's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it.
Comey now facing prosecution in connection with the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, accused of lying to the Senate Judiciary Committee involving a media leak. Comey released his own video responding to the indictment.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way.
Comey calls on Americans to stay engaged and vote. He says he's not afraid.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
The criminal case likely to deepen concerns that the Justice Department is being weaponized in pursuit of public figures the president regards as his political enemies. On September 20th, President Trump on Truth Social addressing Attorney General Pam Bondi, writing, "We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now."
Before I came to office, I started hearing rumors about Russia. I said, what the hell do I have to do with Russia? Nothing. And then it got worse and worse.
President Trump has long ripped the Russia investigation as a hoax and a witch hunt, and it was never established that there was any collusion with Russia in 2016. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Reaction from lawmakers to the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey was swift. Even though Congress is in recess, many quickly appeared on TV news programs and social media sites to express their opinions. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has their reaction. Eric.
Good evening, Veronica. Republicans were quick to come to the defense of President Donald Trump and his administration, including the Attorney General Pam Bondi, while Democrats say the latest indictment is a sign of Trump turning the justice system into a weapon to silence critics. Many are calling it a dangerous abuse of power.
He dislikes him. He thinks he's his political opponent and someone who deserves to be prosecuted. In the United States, you shouldn't be able, as the president, to go after people individually and use the power of the Department of Justice in this way.
It is a sad, dark, really scary day for America. Donald Trump directly singled out James Comey, a critic and political adversary, for charges that seem to be unfounded.
Congressman Jamie Raskin condemned the charges as politically motivated.
It will jump out to any judge or any jury that looks at it as clearly a case of vindictive and selective prosecution. So it's very hard to contemplate in the United States of America a former FBI director being convicted after such a completely contaminated process.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene noted the gravity of Comey's offenses. Quote, Comey helped carry out the Trump-Russia collusion lie, which cost the American people over $32 million and smeared President Trump in his first term. They add the facts and the evidence support the finding that Comey lied to Congress and obstructed its work.
He hasn't been indicted for being a Democrat. He hasn't been indicted for being a partisan, although he is clearly a partisan and he abused the Department of Justice going after Donald Trump. What he's been indicted for is lying to Congress under oath, and he had every opportunity to tell the truth, and I believe he made a conscious decision not to.
What he did was wrong, and I'd argue that what he did is largely also responsible for breaking ties that we have with foreign governments. So this guy's a crook, he's a criminal, he belongs in prison. I will firmly back the administration.
Republicans say not too long ago the Department of Justice under then President Joe Biden did the same thing, going after President Trump and his supporters. They add, why weren't Democrats crying foul back then? At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
For more on this story, let's bring in trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted for allegedly lying to Congress and obstruction a congressional proceeding. Tell us more about why this case is unprecedented.
It's unprecedented in the way that it really happened. Mr. Comey was last year essentially cleared of any wrongdoing with regards to this by a special prosecutor, by special counsel. Once that's done, it's typically sort of over. A special counsel is typically engaged in politically sensitive matters because the executive typically doesn't want to be seen as directing traffic at the Department of Justice. This year, there's been reports of numerous line prosecutors, that would be the rank and file members of the Department of Justice, who basically said the same thing, that said that look, there's not enough evidence here. We don't think we can win a perjury case against Mr. Comey. The Eastern District U.S. Attorney, actually a Trump appointee, was in the same situation and didn't want to prosecute. Donald Trump appointed within the last week or 2 weeks a brand new U.S. attorney, Miss Lindsay Halligan, a lawyer who has no criminal justice background. And despite the urging of her department and Mr. Trump tweeting last week or on his Truth Social, kind of pushing towards Attorney General Pam Bondi that this needs to be done. So it's really unprecedented in the manner that it's been done. The equation here is 10% legal, 90% political. That's what's really unusual about it.
A grand jury has handed down an indictment. What will prosecutors need to prove to the jury?
What they need to do is they need to prove that Mr. Comey knowingly and intentionally made a false statement under oath. Perjury can be a very easy charge to prove, and it can be a very difficult charge to prove given the facts. In most instances, you typically don't see perjury when there's a he said, she said situation. In trial, every trial that you're ever going to watch in your life is going to have somebody accuse another person of lying. That's not perjury. It's just a difference of whatever. But most successful perjury or false statement type prosecutions are when the same person makes multiple statements under oath, both of which cannot be true at the same time. When it gets really difficult, which it seems like it would be here, is where, number one, the person says, what I said actually is not true, is true, or I believed it to be true at the time, or I got confused by the question, or I forgot because you've asked me 800 things today and this is, something that's well down on the list. And you can also defend it by saying, look, this wasn't a really material issue here. Think back to Bill Clinton and his impeachment. One of the issues was the materiality of the lie that he told under oath. He was being sued for a completely different reason than the Monica Lewinsky testimony. If James Comey testifies that the sky is blue outside at this congressional hearing, but the sky is in fact gray or it's nighttime, there's a defense there to say, well, that's not really material. So there's a lot to sort of nail down here if you're the government. This seems like a very difficult case to prove.
A lot of developments will continue to follow. Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
In just a few days, new tariffs will go into effect, some of them reaching upwards of 100%. President Trump announced the tariffs yesterday, which will target a range of products from household goods to heavy trucks and even some pharmaceuticals. Brand-named or patented drugs will face a 100% tariff. However, it will not apply to drug makers who are building manufacturing plants in the United States. The tariffs are set to take effect on October 1st. Joining us now is Mitch Rochelle, Principal and Chief Strategy Officer at Madison Ventures. Welcome.
Good to see you, Veronica.
As we just mentioned, the tariffs target pharmaceuticals, trucking, and home furnishings. Wall Street and Main Street are responding. Can you break it down for us?
Interestingly enough, you mentioned Wall Street. Wall Street shook this news off like it was nothing, almost like it was not news. They seem to be more interested in the Ryder Cup than they did the tariffs. And the reason is, since the original announcement of tariffs earlier in the year, when the market imploded in response, I think market participants and Main Street participants have realized that tariffs have not been as inflationary as they had been predicted. And since they really aren't showing up day to day in household goods, people have said, well, maybe that's, a big nothing burger. But the fact remains that they're out there, and the long-term impact of tariffs will be inflation. It's just that we haven't seen it yet.
Is there a potential for this to impact drug prices in the U.S.?
I think so, but if you look at the intent, the original strategy was to name countries and then slap a tariff on everything that comes into the United States from that country. That's worked in negotiations, and it's been sort of a looming deadline for some countries to come to the table, like Japan and the UK, to work out some sort of a deal. The other approach, which the Trump administration and the trade representatives are taking now, is to attack products that are being imported regardless of where they're coming from. And one of the big items that has been nagging since COVID and before is the fact that 80% of generic antibiotics in the United States are being manufactured in China. So I think this is sort of a backdoor way of trying to get at that issue and get to the pharmaceutical companies who have different prices in different parts of the world. So I think that's what's part of it, but we'll wait and see. I think, the Trump administration is trying to fight this battle on trade inequity on multiple fronts because the original approach doesn't seem to be working with some of the other countries.
Now, on that point, the Trump administration is going all in on this latest round of tariffs. The president says he believes the move will strengthen U.S. manufacturing and protect national security. How do you see it, and what could be the long-term effects of this policy?
Well, certainly having pharmaceuticals like antibiotics, and let's remember the most prescribed drug in the United States, or group of drugs in the United States, and if not around the world, are antibiotics. So having 80% of them manufactured in a country that we certainly have security concerns about is a problem. But the reality is they're generic drugs, and they need to be made inexpensively because of their pricing, and there's no solution yet. Building plants in the United States or having generic drug manufacturers build plants in the United States to make those drugs is a simple solution. It takes a while to build a plant, but I think what he's trying to do is force companies to do that, and also force a company that's forget about pharmaceuticals, being impact. Let's take Komatsu, for example. They make heavy machinery, it competes with John Deere. He's trying to force Komatsu to say to Japan, we have to work something out because we're not going to be able to sell this heavy machinery in the United States. Maybe we should build a plant there and see if the Japanese government will get behind it. So that's really the approach, to get the companies who are eating those tariffs to put pressure on their host country to say, hey, we got to make a deal with the U.S.
Mitch Rochelle, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
You bet. Have a good weekend.
Dozens of delegates walked out today before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was set to address the United Nations General Assembly.
Please, order in the hall.
Israeli delegates cheered while other countries' delegates left the hall. Netanyahu began his remarks by describing Israel's attacks on Iran and their proxies.
We devastated Iran's atomic weapons and ballistic missiles programs. Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, gone. The Assad regime in Syria, gone.
As Netanyahu vowed to eliminate Hamas, his remarks were played via loudspeakers at the Gaza border. Now to a surprise move from the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth summoned hundreds of the military's top officers, many stationed around the globe, to a sudden meeting next week with no official explanation. The gathering is set for Tuesday at Quantico. It will bring together generals and admirals ranked 1-star and above, along with their senior advisors. Pentagon officials confirm Hegseth is scheduled to speak on military standards and, quote, the warrior ethos. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance downplayed the meeting, with Vance suggesting it's not unusual for generals to meet with the defense secretary. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including spiritual warfare, a rare interview with the chief exorcist for the Archdiocese of Washington, and Pope Leo names his pick to lead the powerful dicastery for bishops in his first major Vatican appointment. A major storm threat is building in the Atlantic tonight. Hurricane Humberto is rapidly gaining strength, with winds already reaching 90 miles per hour. It's located 450 miles northeast of the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. Dangerous surf and rip currents are expected to affect Puerto Rico and Bermuda this weekend. Humberto is also raising serious concerns for the southeastern U.S. as forecasters warn of a significant risk for wind, rain, and storm surge impacts early next week. Pope Leo XIV has named his first head of a major Vatican department. Archbishop Filippo Iannone will be the new prefect for the dicastery for bishops. It's a role the Holy Father held himself before becoming pope in May. An expert in church law, Archbishop Iannone has led the dicastery for legislative Texas since 2018. In this new role, which begins on October 15th, he will help the Pope select new bishops. Now to Alabama, where a man was executed for murdering a woman during a robbery. He was a recent convert to Catholicism. Jeffrey West was convicted of murder in 1997 and later apologized to the victim's family. The victim's son publicly forgave his mother's killer and opposed the death penalty for West. West was confirmed earlier this week before he died. This is the fourth person Alabama has executed this year. Now to Texas, where a man was executed for killing his girlfriend's 13-month-old daughter during an alleged exorcism. Prosecutors say the toddler was subjected to unspeakable violence over the course of 30 hours. 35-year-old Blaine Milam was convicted of the 2008 death in East Texas. In a final statement, Milam thanked the prison chaplaincy for opening his faith-based programs to death row inmates. The news underscores the dangers of trying to perform an exorcism without the proper guidance and training. For more, we turn to Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, head of the St. Michael Center for Spiritual Renewal and chief exorcist for the Archdiocese of Washington. Monsignor Rossetti, great to be with you.
Veronica, it's my pleasure.
So first, we do have a lot to discuss, including a recent gathering of exorcist priests in Rome. What is your take on a story that's making a lot of headlines out of Texas? What more do you know about that particular case?
Well, Veronica, I only know what I've read, but it's just horrible. And you see this happen from time to time. Some people with no training, no experience, deciding that they are going to cast out these demons from a minor, and it's just a disaster, and it's just awful. Which is why the Catholic Church, by the way, controls the ministry. You've got to be a priest. You've got to have this special training, and you're supervised by the diocese, and you have to have a mandate directly from your bishop.
Now, if someone suspects a loved one is possibly possessed by a demon, what are the next safe steps they should take?
The first thing we recommend is you go to your parish priest and have him chat with you, talk to you, maybe say some what we call deliverance prayers, and see if he thinks there might be something more serious involved. If he does, if there are signs, perhaps, of demonic presence, Then he forwards it to the diocese, who sends it to the exorcist.
Now, another story that we are following, around 300 exorcist priests recently gathered in Rome. You are a member of the International Association of Exorcists. What was discussed in the meetings this year?
Well, Veronica, it's a training session where they bring in experts, and it's kind of like an ongoing training for exorcists and their team members. So you learn the latest, and you also learn the guidelines and how to perform an exorcism professionally and safely. So these kinds of gatherings are important. We need to regulate this ministry and keep it safe for all involved.
You recently wrote a blog post on whether a so-called witch's curse can bring harm or even death. Tell us more about what you found.
Well, after being an exorcist for 18 years, I found out that curses really can have an effect, which I didn't know, but I found out through experience. So what happens but what these witches don't realize is that it's through the power of demons, whether they know it or not. If they throw a curse or a spell, basically it's demons who make it potent if it has any effect. But the good news is, if you're a practicing Catholic, if you're practicing the faith, Jesus is your shield, as Ephesians 6, and you are protected.
Is there anything you suggest for people to do?
Well, yes, practice the faith. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think people are affected by evil so much today, is they stop practicing the faith, they get involved with evil practices and start practicing the occult. And when you do that, you open yourself up to the demonic, and curses can affect you. And you get many of these lone wolf terrorists, they'll say things like, I heard these voices in my head, they're practicing the occult or something, and you can see that they're being pushed by Satan to commit these awful crimes.
Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, thank you so much for your insight on this very important issue.
You're welcome, Veronica. God bless you and all at EWTN.
Thank you. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, spreading the faith. The Jubilee for Catechists kicks off in Rome, and its importance goes beyond formation. The Jubilee of Catechists kicked off in Rome today, with 20,000 pilgrims from 115 countries expected to gather in the Eternal City. Bringing together those from both diocesan and national offices, the Jubilee event is dedicated to those who daily engage in catechesis.
Catechesis makes the proclamation of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus resound, echo in the hearts and minds of a person, so that their life may be transformed. That's the whole goal of catechesis, is to have this new life in Jesus Christ. And as I was saying, a catechist does that by inviting someone to come to faith, by accompanying them on their journey of faith, by instructing them, educating them, teaching them about the faith, as we would have summarized in the catechism, and then showing them, witnessing what it means to be a disciple of Jesus, so that it's possible to live as a disciple in this world today. What's really exciting about being here for the Jubilee of Catechists is that you have catechists from all over the world who are coming from very different pastoral contexts, different pastoral realities, but they're all united with their love for catechesis, which is a part of the evangelizing mission of the Church.
Over the next 3 days, participants will walk through the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica, take part in prayer vigils, and have an audience with Pope Leo XIV. The celebration will conclude with a Mass in St. Peter's Square, where the Holy Father will institute the ministry of 39 new lay catechists and present them with a missionary crucifix. Earlier today, the EWTN Vatican office hosted a press conference led by Monsignor Paolo Martinelli, the Vicar Apostolic of Southern Arabia, who spoke about the role and importance of catechists in regions where Catholics are a minority.
Christian formation is very important in order to discover the relationship between the faith we celebrate and our daily life. So formation is exactly this bridge we need between the sacrament we celebrate and our daily life. The formation is exactly what we need in order to put into practice what we believe. Therefore, it's so essential to have catechists in our vicariate. Also, the context where we have to live our faith is very special because we are in an Islamic country, a multicultural nation. Therefore, we need more and more to be aware about our identity, about the consequences of our faith. No? Therefore, we need Christian formation and we need catechists.
He says with only 64 priests serving the region, the 3,800 catechists across Oman and the United Arab Emirates play a vital role. He added that every Christian shares the responsibility of witnessing to the faith and passing it on. Before we say goodbye, we want to tell you about the two saints of the day, Saints Cosmas and Damian. The two were twins who lived in Syria and Turkey in the mid to late 3rd century. They were martyred possibly during the persecution of Diocletian. They were physicians, and legend says they evangelized among the pagan communities by offering their services for free. During the persecution, they were told to publicly renounce their faith or face execution. However, they stood firm and were sentenced to death. They have been venerated in the East and West since the time of their deaths and are mentioned in the Roman canon. Saints Cosmas and Damian, pray for us. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.